Hey everyone, this is Paul. I'm here again with another art study review with a part two of Jim Lee. Um, the reason why I started this art study, and I think I'm going to take a look at um, a few of the image founders for one, because they all had the greatest influence and impact on my art style. But Jim Lee happened to be that first person that really inspired me to start doing more. So, what we're looking at today is another part of Hush 2. Um, Again, some people say they didn't like it. They couldn't see that they think he didn't have the spark. I personally believe that there are just some little minor differences, and I still definitely love the art. It's still as beautiful and sharp as ever. Um, I can tell you where the techniques um, differ, especially in this particular piece. You know, he usually puts a lot of shadow into Batman anyway. Right here, definitely nice. The shadow running from the top of the arm where he's pulling the rope over the right leg, and just coming up the side of the building is a beautiful shot. I don't know many people who can do it. Um, Not that beautiful looking right there. Then we have this shot. You know, these are pretty standard Jim Lee, nice shots. You know, close up shot, but still somebody in the background. Keeps the panel nice. And I always like to say active. These are some nice shots too. I do like the shots where there's, maybe one item in the hand and the close up shot of that. And then you can start seeing the detail in the suit. Some beautiful work. And we get to some action, and to me, it kind of looks, like a Jim Lee book, which is not bad, not bad at all. My favorite artist, I must say. Um, uh, where people tend to think, maybe he was cutting corners or things like that, is just because, the style's a little different. But if you notice, there's light in front of Batman, and the front of the leg, the chest area, underneath the arm, is all giving off reflective light. Uh, the belt, man, that's a beautiful utility belt. Seen a lot of different types of belts. Some pouches, small, big. Some of them are small and big on the same belt, but those are to give a little personality. But what's really important is Jim Lee's aesthetic from the reader's point of view, and the people who love the art. What they're looking at is they see these diagonal lines or just these little crossing lines. But a lot of this is not cross hatching, it's just lines. And so, not seeing a whole lot of cross hatching from Jim Lee, which is usually what your brain is kind of used to from, you know, X-Men to Wildcats. Um, Not as much in the old Batman Hush. There is a lot, but there isn't as nearly as much. Um, I think it's because what you're dealing with is texture. So you will see a lot of these cross hatches on, characters who show more skin. You see a lot of cross hatching on Wolverine's face or Cyclops' face, Gambit's hair. His face and his hair exposed. You see a lot of little different lines in there. So there's all these different techniques that uh, they clue you in to make the brain think, see, and feel a certain type of texture, or you know the clothing and things like that. So no, I think this is still beautiful. This is standard Jim Lee. I think right now, as I said before in my last video, it takes time when you're an artist doing this much detail in the first place, and it's going to take even more time when you're an executive and you're trying to do this work in the same way. Once again, you got one of those climbing up shots. It's a great shot. This right here of the Joker and Jason Todd is pretty cool. It's a beautiful view of this kind of like upward angle of Jason Todd popping off the shots while Nightwing is kind of jumping in there. See, things like this is what gives Jim Lee's personality to his characters he draws. Look at him grab the guns or leaving the guns. The way Nightwing is kind of posed and ready. It's beautiful shots. Look at that. See, this right here. Great looking shot. That top panel. We go down to the second panel, and you got the punches are being felt. That elbow crack on the back of the head is ridiculous. It's nice. I still very much like the art here and the style. I don't think anything is wrong. I just notice where they, where people are complaining about differences. And if it's just differences that you're complaining about and you're not saying that, and you're still saying that the art isn't as good, I don't think that's correct. I think that, getting art still like this in the modern era of comics, where there's a lot of, room for people to cheat with things like AI and all the digital, adjustments you can make to your art. And Jim Lee is still very much so a traditional penciler. Now, don't get me wrong, digital artists, great artists. They you still have to have a skill level, a certain amount of skill, and a skill set in order to draw using just digital, tools. And I do more traditional than I do digital. I do very little digital, but when it's time to produce a book, those digital assets are there to kind of help you move that book along faster, such as your inking or your coloring or whatever. But if you're drawing in it, that's perfectly fine. You're still going to use the same techniques to give your art the feel that you want. Let's see if there's one more. And I do like this right here, which is not a whole lot to go into detail about, but you see here, these are some good looking panels right here. Just cut it in half, and look at that. It does give you that feeling that Batman is fighting someone that he actually physically cannot hurt. Two panels showing the type of strikes that he's doing. It's a brilliant idea. And you might say, well, that's not brilliant. People can do it. Yeah, but not everyone can do it. And trust me, I've followed Image Comics and even wrote up an article about them that I placed onto Substack. The history of this company, how many founders contributed to Marvel's success. I think 55 of their top, 50 books were produced by those 7 guys. So what we're talking about is the amount of talent that is in, and was an Image at the time is staggering. I mean, absolutely staggering. That was my company. My company was Image. I liked Marvel. I liked this DC, but that was my company. So you know, I hope you guys enjoy this. Um, I think I'm gonna do one more, but I may do one more of Jim Lee on some of the old X-Men run. Maybe the run he did just before he left to create Image. And we're going to have some fun and take a look at that and study some art. All right. You guys have a great day. Thanks.